Now, I'm going to go through what I'm planning on reading in October. I've picked out 4 books that I'm going to read, and the reason why it's only 4, but why is it 4, I hear you ask? You read 9 last month. Well, thank you for asking. I've picked 4 because I'm going to be a bit busier, and also 2 of the books are ginormous from my perspective. I'm still getting used to reading, so books that are over 400 pages, not for me. So I'm really pushing myself out there with this one, so be proud of me. So the first book that I'm reading is this one here, this behemoth. This behemoth, Ralph Ellison's The Invisible Man. I have very little motivation as to why I actually want to read this. Firstly, I just love this cover. I think it's gorgeous. So I think, who's published this? Penguin Essentials. Well done. Fair play to you. This book here is about a black man in America who lives underground in a cell. He is the invisible man of the title because the outside world and others do not perceive him to be visible. I love the concept of this book. I just think it's great. I'm not well versed in sort of black American literature, and this is something that I'm wanting to read more of because I think there are no doubt some incredible black writers, which I'm not well versed in. So very interested in it. I'm very curious, and it's a big book. It's over 500 pages. To me, that's a real challenge. So I'm looking forward to reading this. Up next, and now for something completely different, Liarmouth by John Waters. Speaking of American classics, John Waters is a very controversial and provocative filmmaker who has made what we would describe as some of the most controversial mainstream films, I guess, that have ever been released. So he made Pink Flamingos in 1972, and he has since gone on to become weirdly mainstream. It's kind of strange how he's done it. He basically makes films that break every conceivable taboo there is, and he makes them with absolutely no shame, and that's brilliant. As he is in his late 70s nearly, we need someone like him. I think Harmony Korine is probably going to be the next John Waters. So who have we got here? So we've got Liarmouth. Liarmouth is about... So the first line of the blurb should basically give you away that this is not going to be a usual work of literary fiction. So, Marcia Sprinkle, suitcase thief, master of disguise, scammer. Dogs and children hate her. Her own family wants her dead. She's smart, she's desperate, she's disturbed, and she's on the run with a big chip on her shoulder. They call her Liarmouth until one insane man makes her tell the truth. And I love the tagline for this. It's a feel-bad romance. I just think that's great. That's so subversive. And it's such a simply subversive thing to do. But I'm just excited about this. I think John Waters is hilarious. In interviews, he's always funny. He's always very clever. He seems very erudite, even though he's an absolute loudmouth and a filthy man. But I'm excited to read that and just explore his written works. It's not something I've really looked into. So the next book I'm reading is this one here, The Wind in the Willows. This is another absolute piece of tonal whiplash. How have you gone from reading John Waters to innocent children's literature? Good question. I think this is because I want to detox before the 4th book that I've planned to read. So The Wind in the Willows is a classic of children's literature, and I think everyone and their mother has read this. The Wind in the Willows follows this whole cast of characters. You've got Mole, Ratty, Badger, and Mr. Toad, and it's basically this animal adventure. And I'm just hoping for something nice and relaxing to read that I should be able to get through fairly quickly, because I just want something nice. We all deserve something nice, especially, and this is a very strange Halloween pick, but it's got animals in it, which you could define as creatures. That's Halloweeny, isn't it? But no. The main event for this video, the main reason that I'm motivated to read for Halloween is because of this enormous thing, this giant, this colossus, this absolute monstrosity that is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Before I even get into what this book's about, firstly, I've got to say, this is the most beautiful book I own. It's absolutely gorgeous. This book here is a beast. It's enormous. I mean, look at that. It's about half the thickness of my head. It's huge. Maybe even 2/3.
Thick ass boy!
So, this book here is one that I'm very excited to read for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I'm very ill-versed on Russian literature. I've read Bulgakov. I'm excited to dip my toes into the world of Russian literature because I know that they are very philosophical, very existential, and that's my vibe. This is Dostoevsky's story of a man who murders his father and has to live with the consequences. Is it going to be philosophical? Probably. Is it going to be existential? Definitely. Is it going to be exploring death and corruption of the mind? Absolutely. I am looking forward to reading this a lot, even though it's enormous. I'm just very excited to see if Dostoevsky is accessible, if I could potentially read more of his work, because it's something I'd like to do. In the same way as I was talking about with Faulkner before, because they are so revered, it almost seems like if you don't enjoy their work, you must still study it, or at least learn how they became so influential or so acclaimed. And I think that's true in a way. It's interesting to be an author who can be both revered and also at the same time reviled because you are revered. I mean, that's a strange paradox to be in, I think. But this is the last book I'm planning on reading this month. I'm hoping to read a bit more. I just don't know what I would read after this, really. After reading something that's 800 pages long, I haven't done this since I was probably about 11 or 12. I used to read huge books very quickly. I don't think this will be the case for this one. I want to take my time with it and I want to enjoy it and appreciate it, which I don't think I can do quickly. But anyway, I think those are all the books that I'm planning on reading in October. I think what I'm going to do is with Crime and Punishment, I'm going to make a separate video on it, and I'm going to talk about my experiences as I'm reading it and if I'm able to cope, basically. This definitely be a good horror read because it's more psychological and that's the kind of horror I'm interested in. I'm not really into the sort of, gore and grisly and all the sort of sinew and viscera that comes with modern horror. I much prefer sort of psychological horror, and I think Cronenberg is probably another great name for that. But that's film, that's not books. Thank you very much for watching. That's what I'm reading this month. I think I've talked quicker than I have in any video I've ever made. I think I sort of got in a rhythm with it and I just got excited. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.